There is a moment that comes quietly, often without warning. You reach for something on a high shelf, and your arm does not extend quite as far as it once did. You walk up a flight of stairs, and at the top, you notice your breath is just a little heavier than expected. You are in a conversation, and a name you have known for decades suddenly hovers just out of reach, somewhere between your mind and your tongue. These moments are small. They are easy to dismiss, easy to attribute to the simple passage of time. But if we are honest, they carry with them a quiet question. Is this the beginning of something larger? Is this how independence begins to slip away? Most of us assume that these changes are inevitable. We have been told, implicitly and explicitly, that aging is a process of gradual decline, that the body weakens, the mind slows, and we must simply accept this as the natural order. But what if this assumption is hiding something important? What if the changes we mistake for inevitable aging are actually something else entirely? Responses to factors that we can influence, patterns that we can shift, foundations that we can strengthen. The research emerging from the science of longevity tells a different story than the one we have been told. It suggests that many of the changes we associate with getting older are not driven by time alone, but by the cumulative effect of how we live, how we rest, how we move, how we connect. And this distinction matters, because time is beyond our control, but how we live is not. The architecture of a long life is not built in a day, but it is built, day by day, by choices that either support vitality or quietly erode it. What we have yet to fully appreciate is just how much of what feels like aging is actually something we have the power to address. You are listening to the Longevity Library, where we archive the wisdom of healthy aging, the architecture of a long life, understanding the foundations of healthy aging. There is a question that becomes more present in the mind with each passing year. It does not arrive with urgency or alarm, but rather as a quiet companion to ordinary moments. When we wake in the morning and notice how the body feels. When we climb a flight of stairs and become aware of each step. When we look at photographs from decades past and marvel at the passage of time. The question is simply this: what makes some people age well while others do not? For centuries, this question belonged to philosophy and observation. Wise elders observed that some individuals seemed to weather the years with grace, while others struggled. Patterns emerged, certain habits, certain temperaments, certain ways of living appeared more often among those who maintained their vitality into advanced age. But the reasons remain mysterious, hidden within the complexity of human biology. Today, we have the privilege of living in an era when science has begun to illuminate these mysteries. Researchers across multiple disciplines, genetics, neuroscience, endocrinology, epidemiology, have been piecing together a coherent picture of what healthy aging looks like and how it might be supported. The picture that emerges is not one of miracle cures or revolutionary treatments. It is something far more valuable. A return to fundamentals, a recognition that the body has its own wisdom, and that working with that wisdom rather than against it is the most reliable path to longevity. This is not a guide to living forever. Such a thing does not exist, and the search for it often distracts from what actually matters. This is instead an exploration of the architecture of a long life, the structures, patterns, and principles that research suggests may help us maintain our health, our cognition, and our quality of life as the years accumulate. It is grounded in science, but written for human beings. Recognizing that knowledge only becomes meaningful when it can be integrated into the rhythm of ordinary days. The body's internal clock, understanding circadian rhythms, deep within the brain, in a region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, resides a master clock. This small cluster of nerve cells serves as the conductor of an orchestra that spans the entire body, coordinating the timing of countless biological processes. Every organ, every tissue, every cell contains its own clockwork, but all are synchronized by this central timekeeper. This internal clock runs on an approximate 24-hour cycle, a reflection of the planet's rotation that shaped evolution over billions of years. It influences when we feel alert and when we feel sleepy, when our body temperature rises and falls, when hormones are released and when they are suppressed. It affects digestion, immune function, cognitive performance, and even the timing of cell repair and regeneration. The clock does not run independently. It requires external cues to stay accurate, much as a mechanical watch requires occasional adjustment. The most powerful of these cues is light. When light enters the eyes, it signals to the master clock that the day has begun, triggering a cascade of effects throughout the body. Body temperature begins its gradual rise. Cortisol, a hormone associated with alertness, is released. Attention and focus sharpen. The body prepares for activity. As the day progresses, the clock continues its work, coordinating the ebb and flow of energy, metabolism, and cognitive function. Then, as evening approaches, a different set of signals emerges. The pineal gland, a small structure deep within the brain, begins to produce melatonin. This hormone does not cause sleep directly, as is commonly believed. Rather, it serves as a messenger, traveling through the bloodstream to inform every part of the body that darkness has fallen and that preparations for rest should begin. The timing of this melatonin signal is critically important. When it arrives too early or too late relative to our intended sleep schedule, we experience the sensation of being out of sync, falling asleep at inappropriate times, or lying awake when we wish to be resting. This is the experience of jet lag, familiar to anyone who has traveled across time zones. The body's internal clock remains set to its original location while the external world demands a different schedule. But jet lag is not the only circumstance that can disrupt this delicate timing. Modern life presents a more subtle but potentially more persistent challenge: the gradual erosion of the signals that keep our internal clock accurate. Consider the morning routine that has become common in recent decades. The alarm sounds before the eyes have fully opened, before the body has had a chance to transition from sleep to wakefulness. The hand reaches for a phone. Within seconds, the screen illuminates, and we are confronted with emails, news headlines, social media updates, everyone else's agenda for our day but our own. This small act, repeated daily, may have consequences that extend far beyond the morning hours. Research has shown that anticipating an anxious event can significantly affect sleep quality. When we know we will wake to a flood of demands and notifications, our sleep becomes shallower, less restorative. The brain remains partially vigilant, preparing for the stress it expects to encounter upon waking. This is the same mechanism that makes sleep difficult the night before an early morning flight. Anticipatory anxiety fragments deep sleep, leaving us less refreshed than we would otherwise be. The solution is not necessarily to banish technology from the bedroom entirely. Such advice, while well-intentioned, often proves impractical. A gentler approach may be more sustainable, creating a buffer between waking and the digital world. Perhaps the first 15 minutes of the day are reserved for natural light, for hydration, for gentle movement, for simply being present before the demands of the day begin. This small practice signals to the body that waking is a transition to be honored, not a switch to be flipped. The architecture of rest. Sleep is foundation. If the circadian clock is the conductor, then sleep is the symphony it conducts. Yet for something so essential, sleep remains remarkably misunderstood. Many view it as a passive state, a kind of daily death from which we are resurrected each morning. The reality could hardly be more different. Sleep is an active, Dynamic process during which the brain and body perform critical maintenance. While we rest, the brain is hard at work. It consolidates memories, transferring important information from short-term storage to long-term archives. It processes emotions, helping us integrate the experiences of the day. It clears away metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours, including proteins that have been linked to cognitive decline when they build up over time. The body, too, is engaged in restoration. Growth hormone is released, supporting tissue repair and maintenance. The immune system releases cytokines, proteins that help fight inflammation and infection. The cardiovascular system slows, allowing blood pressure to drop and the heart to operate at a more restful pace. Digestive processes are completed. Cells throughout the body perform repairs that could not be undertaken during the demands of waking activity. This nightly restoration requires adequate time. Research consistently points to a range of 7 to 9 hours as optimal for most adults. This is not an arbitrary recommendation, but a conclusion drawn from decades of epidemiological research examining health outcomes across large populations. When people consistently sleep less than 7 hours, certain patterns emerge. The relationship between sleep duration and health follows what researchers call a U-shaped curve. Too little sleep and too much sleep, consistently more than 9 hours, both correlate with less favorable outcomes. Though the reasons for each may differ, it is important to understand what these 7 to 9 hours represent. They are not merely the amount of sleep required to survive, but the amount required to thrive. One can function on 6 hours, just as one can function on a diet of processed food and little exercise. But function is not the same as flourish. The difference between surviving and thriving is precisely what makes the study of healthy aging so valuable. As we age, sleep naturally changes. Deep sleep, the most restorative stage, gradually decreases. Nighttime awakenings become more common. The circadian rhythm tends to shift earlier, leading many older adults to feel sleepy earlier in the evening and wake earlier in the morning. These changes are normal and expected. What is not normal is accepting poor sleep as inevitable. If sleep consistently feels unrefreshing despite adequate time in bed, it may be worth investigating further. Sleep apnea, a condition in which breathing repeatedly stops and starts during the night, becomes more common with age and is associated with snoring, gasping, and excessive daytime sleepiness. Restless legs syndrome causes uncomfortable sensations that create an overwhelming urge to move the legs, particularly during periods of rest. Both conditions are treatable, and addressing them can dramatically improve sleep quality and, by extension, overall health. The principle of regularity. If one could identify a single factor that most powerfully supports healthy sleep, it would not be any supplement, any device, or any particular bedtime ritual. It would be regularity. Going to bed and waking at the same time each day, not just on weekdays, not just when it is convenient, but consistently. 7 days a week may be the most effective sleep intervention available. The reason lies in the nature of the circadian clock. This internal timekeeper craves predictability. When we maintain a consistent schedule, the clock can accurately anticipate our needs, releasing alertness-promoting signals when we need to be awake and sleep-promoting signals when we need to rest. When our schedule varies widely, staying up late on Friday and sleeping until noon on Saturday, then rising early on Monday, we create a condition known as social jet lag. The body's internal time zone shifts back and forth, never quite syncing with external demands. This inconsistency affects more than just how we feel in the morning. Research has found that irregular sleep schedules are associated with metabolic changes, increased inflammation, and higher risks of cardiovascular issues. Even when total sleep time is adequate, The body interprets irregularity as a form of stress, and chronic stress, as we will explore, has profound effects on health and longevity. Regularity applies to more than just sleep timing. Mealtimes, too, appear to influence circadian health. When we eat at consistent times each day, the digestive system can prepare for food intake, releasing enzymes and hormones at appropriate moments. When mealtimes vary widely, the digestive system must constantly adapt, a process that may become less efficient over time. Morning light exposure, which we discussed earlier, is most effective when it occurs at a consistent time each day. This regular signal helps anchor the circadian clock, providing a reliable reference point that the body can use to calibrate its internal timing. Even on cloudy days, when light is dimmer, the contrast between indoor and outdoor illumination provides meaningful information to the circadian system. Melatonin, messenger, not medicine. Given the importance of sleep to health and longevity, it is not surprising that many people seek external help in achieving restful nights. Among the most popular aids is melatonin, a hormone that has become ubiquitous in pharmacies, supermarkets, and online retailers. It appears in gummies, tablets, liquids, and sprays, often in doses far exceeding what the body naturally produces. Understanding what melatonin actually does is essential to using it wisely. Melatonin is not a sleep aid in the way that sedating medications are. It does not cause sleep or maintain sleep. Its role is more subtle and more specific. It signals to the body that darkness has fallen and that the time for sleep is approaching. It is the messenger, not the message itself. This distinction matters because it shapes expectations. If one takes melatonin expecting to be knocked unconscious, disappointment is likely. The effect, when it occurs, is modest. Research suggests that melatonin typically reduces the time to fall asleep by only a few minutes and increases overall sleep efficiency by a small percentage. These effects are real but subtle, and for many people, they may be indistinguishable from placebo. The placebo effect, incidentally, is not something to dismiss. It represents the body's remarkable capacity for self-healing when expectations align with physiology. If melatonin works for you through whatever mechanism, there may be no reason to stop. But understanding its limitations helps set realistic expectations and prevents the search for ever higher doses in pursuit of effects that will not come. And higher doses are a genuine concern. Many commercial melatonin products contain 10 or 20 milligrams, doses far exceeding anything the body naturally produces. Natural melatonin peaks at levels equivalent to a fraction of a milligram. When we take superphysiological doses, we create a hormonal signal that persists well into the morning hours. Normally, melatonin production ceases during the night, and levels return to baseline by morning. When we wake, no hormonal signal tells our body that it is still nighttime. But after a high-dose melatonin supplement, significant levels may remain upon waking. The body continues to receive the message that darkness prevails, even as the sun rises. This mismatch can produce morning grogginess, a fog that many mistake for poor sleep or insufficient caffeine. In reality, it may be the lingering effect of a hormone taken at the wrong dose. If melatonin is used, the appropriate range is between 0.1 and 3 milligrams, starting at the lower end and observing the effect. Higher doses do not produce stronger sleep signals. They simply prolong the duration of action, potentially interfering with morning alertness. There are specific circumstances where melatonin appears most helpful. Jet lag is the classic example. When traveling across time zones, the body's internal clock is out of sync with the destination. Melatonin, taken at the appropriate local bedtime, can help signal to the body that it is time to sleep, facilitating the shift. Timing is critical, taken at the wrong hour. Melatonin can actually worsen jet lag by reinforcing the original time zone. Circadian rhythm disorders represent another appropriate use. For individuals whose natural sleep timing is significantly delayed or advanced relative to societal norms, those who cannot fall asleep until 3 or 4 in the morning. For example, melatonin, under medical supervision, may help shift the clock toward a more conventional schedule. But for the majority of people struggling with sleep, behavioral approaches, regularity, morning light, evening wind-down routines are likely to be more effective and carry none of the unknowns associated with long-term hormone supplementation. The unanswered questions about long-term use. The widespread use of melatonin, particularly in children, has raised questions that science has not yet fully answered. In the United States, melatonin use in pediatric populations has increased dramatically in recent years. Gummy formulations, appealing to children and convenient for parents, line store shelves alongside vitamins and supplements. Data from poison control centers has documented a significant increase in calls related to pediatric melatonin ingestions. This does not necessarily indicate toxicity in the usual sense. Melatonin is remarkably safe in acute overdose, with a very high threshold for serious harm. Rather, it reflects the sheer volume of use. When a substance is present in millions of homes, accessible to curious children, incidents will occur. More concerning, because more uncertain, is the question of long-term effects. Melatonin is a bioactive hormone involved in multiple physiological systems. In addition to its role in sleep-wake timing, it participates in immune function, antioxidant defense, and, importantly, reproductive development. Animal studies conducted decades ago raised questions about melatonin's effects on reproductive maturation. In juvenile rats, animals roughly equivalent to human adolescents, high doses of melatonin were associated with delayed testicular development. These were very high doses, and animal studies do not always translate to humans. But they serve as a reminder that hormones are not neutral substances. They have effects throughout the body, some of which may not be immediately apparent. The principle at work here is one that applies broadly to supplementation with any hormone. When we introduce a hormone from outside the body may adjust its own production. This is well documented with testosterone, where long-term supplementation can lead to reduced natural production, sometimes permanently. With melatonin, we do not yet have evidence that this occurs. Small studies of 6 to 12 months suggest that natural production resumes when supplementation stops. But people are not taking melatonin for just 6 months. They are taking it for years. And we have no data on the effects of multi-year use. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. This is not a reason for alarm, but it is a reason for thoughtfulness. When we choose to supplement with any hormone, we are conducting an experiment on our own biology. The outcome of that experiment is not guaranteed. This is not to say that melatonin should never be used, but that its use should be intentional, informed, and preferably discussed with a healthcare provider who understands both its potential benefits and its uncertainties. The attention economy and its effects on rest. There is another factor affecting sleep that has nothing to do with hormones or circadian biology, yet may be more powerful than both. It is the unprecedented access to stimulating content that modern technology provides, available at any hour, accessible with a single touch. Our devices are not neutral tools. They are products, designed by teams of engineers and psychologists who have spent billions of dollars perfecting the art of capturing and holding attention. Every notification, every color, every interaction has been tested and refined to maximize engagement. These are attention capture devices, built to fleece us of our most valuable resource, our focus, and they do it ruthlessly well. When we engage with social media, email, or text messages before bed, we are not simply exposing ourselves to light. We are activating the brain's emotional and cognitive centers. A stressful work email triggers the same physiological response as an actual threat. An upsetting news story activates worry circuits. A social media post that sparks disagreement creates a cascade of thoughts and feelings that can persist long after the screen is dark. This activation acts as a mute button on sleepiness. The body may be exhausted, ready for rest, but the brain has been roused to alertness. We have all experienced the phenomenon of being barely able to keep our eyes open while watching a calm television program, only to climb into bed, pick up a phone, and find ourselves wide awake an hour later, still scrolling. This is not a failure of willpower. It is a predictable response to stimuli designed to be irresistible. Certain personality types appear more vulnerable to this effect. Individuals prone to anxiety, those with high impulsivity, and those who score high on measures of neuroticism may find themselves particularly susceptible to the attention-grabbing nature of devices. For these individuals, the pull of digital content before bed can be especially difficult to resist. The solution is not technological. No blue light filter or nighttime mode addresses the fundamental issue of emotional activation. The solution is behavioral, and it can be surprisingly simple. One researcher suggests a practical rule. You may have your phone in the bedroom, but you can only use it standing up. Standing creates a subtle discomfort that naturally limits use. After a few minutes, the body wants to sit or lie down, and when it does, the phone goes away. This small hack leverages physical sensation to interrupt the scrolling cycle. A more comprehensive approach is to create a buffer zone in the hour before bed, a period during which engaging, interactive, emotionally activating content is set aside. This does not mean avoiding screens entirely. Listening to a calm podcast or audiobook is generally fine, as these do not demand the same kind of active engagement. Reading a physical book, or an e-reader with no backlight, provides a gentle transition. Gentle stretching, meditation, or simply sitting quietly with a cup of herbal tea can signal to the nervous system that the day is ending and rest is approaching. The biology of stress and recovery. Sleep is not the only biological process that matters for healthy aging, though it may be the most foundational. Equally important is the body's ability to manage stress, not to eliminate it, which is neither possible nor desirable, but to recover from it effectively. Stress, in biological terms, is any challenge that requires the body to adapt. A tight deadline at work is stress. A steep hill climbed on a walk is stress. An emotional conversation with a loved one is stress. Even positive events, a wedding, a vacation, a long-awaited reunion, create stress in the biological sense, because they require adaptation and response. The body's stress response is ancient and elegant. When a challenge is perceived, the sympathetic nervous system activates, releasing hormones that prepare the body for action. Heart rate increases. Blood pressure rises. Blood flow is redirected to muscles and vital organs. Attention narrows and focuses. This is the famous fight-or-flight response, and it has kept our ancestors alive for millions of years. The problem in modern life is not the stress response itself, but its chronic activation. When the body remains in a state of high alert for extended periods, when stressors are constant and recovery is insufficient, the systems designed for short-term adaptation begin to cause harm. Blood pressure remains elevated. Inflammation increases. Digestive function is suppressed. Sleep becomes shallow and fragmented. Over time, these effects accumulate, contributing to the chronic conditions that undermine health in later years. The antidote to chronic stress activation is not the elimination of stress, but the cultivation of recovery. This is where the parasympathetic nervous system, sometimes called the rest and digest system, plays its essential role. When the threat has passed, when the challenge has been met, the parasympathetic system should activate, returning the body to a state of calm. Heart rate slows. Blood pressure drops. Digestion resumes. Repair processes begin. Sleep is the most profound expression of this recovery state, but it is not the only one. Throughout the day, we have opportunities to activate the parasympathetic system, moments of genuine rest, of connection, of presence. A walk in nature, without the distraction of a phone. A conversation with a friend, fully attended to. A few minutes of quiet, with no agenda. These moments matter, not just for how they feel in the moment, but for their cumulative effect on the body's stress systems. Movement as medicine. Among the most powerful tools for supporting healthy aging is one that costs nothing, requires no prescription, and is available to virtually everyone. Physical movement. The evidence linking regular physical activity to longevity is among the strongest in all of medical research. The benefits are wide-ranging and interconnected. Regular movement supports cardiovascular health, helping maintain healthy blood pressure and circulation. It supports metabolic function, helping the body regulate blood sugar and utilize energy efficiently. It supports musculoskeletal health, maintaining the muscle mass and bone density that protect against falls and fractures. It supports cognitive function, increasing blood flow to the brain and stimulating the release of factors that promote neural health. Perhaps most importantly, regular movement supports the body's stress systems. Physical activity is itself a form of stress, a controlled, predictable challenge that the body can adapt to. When we exercise, we activate the sympathetic nervous system, but we also create an opportunity for recovery. The post-exercise period is one of enhanced parasympathetic activity, a state of deep rest that counterbalances the activation of the workout itself. This pattern, stress followed by recovery, challenge followed by adaptation, is the fundamental rhythm of healthy living. The body is designed to respond to demands by becoming stronger, more capable, more resilient. But this only works when the demands are followed by adequate recovery. Without recovery, stress becomes chronic, and the benefits of movement are lost. For older adults, the type and intensity of movement matter less than consistency. Walking, gardening, dancing, swimming, gentle strength training. All of these contribute to the cumulative effect of an active life. The goal is not to achieve a particular level of fitness or to meet some external standard. The goal is simply to move regularly, to send the body the signal that it is still needed, still capable, still engaged with the world. The social dimension of longevity. There is a factor in healthy aging that receives far less attention than diet or exercise, yet may be equally important. It is the quality of our connections with others. Research consistently finds that individuals with strong social ties tend to live longer, healthier lives than those who are isolated. This effect holds across cultures, across socioeconomic groups, and across the lifespan. The reasons are likely multiple. Social connection provides emotional support, buffering the effects of stress. It provides practical support, helping with the tasks and challenges of daily life. It provides accountability and encouragement for healthy behaviors. And it provides meaning, a sense of purpose and belonging that sustains us through difficult times. The mechanisms may also be biological. Social connection has been linked to lower levels of inflammation, better immune function, and healthier stress hormone patterns. Loneliness, by contrast, appears to activate the same neural pathways as physical pain, creating a chronic stress state that erodes health over time. As we age, maintaining social connections often requires more intentionality. Retirement can reduce daily contact with colleagues. Friends may move away or pass away. Mobility limitations can make it harder to get out and see people. Physical changes, hearing loss, in particular, can make conversation more effortful, leading some to withdraw from social situations. The response to these challenges is not to pretend they do not exist, but to adapt. This might mean seeking out new social opportunities, classes, groups, volunteer activities that align with current interests and abilities. It might mean investing more in phone calls or video chats with distant loved ones. It might mean simply being more intentional about the connections that remain, making time for them, protecting them, valuing them. The quality of relationships matters more than quantity. A few close, supportive connections provide more benefit than a large network of superficial ones. But some level of connection appears essential. Humans evolved as social creatures, dependent on others for survival. That biological legacy does not disappear with age. If anything, it becomes more pronounced. Purpose and meaning. Beyond social connection lies something broader. The sense that one's life has meaning and purpose. This is not a vague philosophical concept, but a measurable factor that research has linked to health outcomes. Individuals who report a strong sense of purpose, who feel that their lives have direction, that their activities are valuable, that they have reasons to get up in the morning, tend to have better physical and cognitive function as they age. They are more likely to engage in healthy behaviors, more likely to recover from setbacks, more likely to maintain social connections. They also show different patterns of stress hormones and inflammation, suggesting that purpose may have direct biological effects. Purpose does not have to be grand or world-changing. It can be found in caring for a grandchild, tending a garden, volunteering at a local organization, pursuing a creative hobby, or simply being present for friends and family. What matters is the sense that one's actions matter, that one's existence makes a difference to someone or something. Retirement, for all its benefits, can disrupt this sense of purpose. For decades, work provided structure, identity, and a reason to get up each morning. When work ends, these sources of meaning must be replaced. This is not automatic. It requires exploration, experimentation, and sometimes patience. But the search for purpose in later life is not a luxury. It may be essential to maintaining health and vitality. Nutrition as information. The relationship between food and health is often framed in terms of nutrients, protein, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, minerals. This framework is useful but incomplete. Food is not just fuel. It is information, signaling to the body about the environment it inhabits and the demands it will face. When we eat, we are not simply providing raw materials for energy and repair. We are also activating genes, influencing hormones, and shaping the activity of our immune systems. Different foods send different signals. Some signal abundance and safety. Others signal scarcity or threat. The body responds accordingly, adjusting its priorities and resource allocation based on the information it receives. This perspective helps explain why dietary patterns matter more than individual nutrients. The Mediterranean diet, consistently linked to better health outcomes, is not just a collection of healthy foods. It is a pattern of eating that signals abundance, variety, and balance. It includes vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, fish, and olive oil, foods that, together, create a coherent message to the body about the environment it inhabits. Similarly, patterns of eating matter. Regular meal times, as mentioned earlier, support circadian rhythms. Eating earlier in the day, with a lighter evening meal, aligns with the body's natural rhythms of digestion and metabolism. Allowing adequate time between the last meal and bedtime gives the digestive system time to complete its work before sleep. Hydration deserves mention here as well. The sensation of thirst diminishes with age, making older adults more vulnerable to dehydration. Even mild dehydration can affect cognitive function, mood, and physical performance. Regular fluid intake throughout the day, independent of thirst, supports all of the body systems. Water is the ideal source. Sugary drinks and excessive caffeine offer less benefit and potential drawbacks. The built environment. We have focused primarily on internal factors: sleep, stress, movement, connection, purpose. But the external environment also plays a role in healthy aging. The places where we live, the spaces we inhabit, shape our behaviors in ways we may not consciously recognize. Consider the layout of a home. Are frequently used items easily accessible? Or do they require climbing or reaching? Is there a comfortable place to sit and read? With good light and minimal noise? Are stairs manageable? Or do they present a daily challenge? Small features of the built environment can either support independence or create obstacles that gradually erode it. Consider the neighborhood. Are there safe, pleasant places to walk? Are there parks or green spaces nearby? Is there public transportation that allows continued mobility without driving? Are there shops, services, and social opportunities within reasonable distance? Neighborhood characteristics have been linked to physical activity levels, social connection, and even cognitive function in older adults. Consider light exposure. We have discussed the importance of morning light for circadian health. Does the home environment allow for adequate light exposure? Are windows positioned to let in natural light? Can artificial lighting be adjusted to create a calm evening atmosphere? These features matter more than most people realize. The goal is not to achieve some ideal environment, which may not be realistic or affordable. The goal is to become aware of how environment shapes behavior and to make small adjustments where possible. A chair placed by a sunny window. A walking route mapped through pleasant streets. A lamp with a dimmer switch for evening hours. These small changes accumulate, creating conditions that support rather than undermine health. The cumulative effect. Throughout this exploration, a pattern has emerged. The factors that support healthy aging are not dramatic interventions or revolutionary treatments. They are the fundamentals: sleep, movement, stress management, social connection, purpose, nutrition, environment. Each is modest in its individual effect. Together, they create a foundation for vitality that no single intervention could provide. This is both encouraging and demanding. It is encouraging because the fundamentals are accessible to virtually everyone. They do not require expensive equipment, specialized knowledge, or extraordinary discipline. They require only attention and consistency, a willingness to prioritize the basics day after day, year after year. It is demanding because the fundamentals never stop maturing. There is no point at which we have accumulated enough sleep, enough movement, enough connection to coast on past investments. Health is not a bank account that can be filled and then drawn down. It is a garden that requires ongoing attention, season after season. This perspective also protects against the search for shortcuts. If healthy aging were simply a matter of finding the right supplement, the right treatment, the right intervention, the path would be straightforward. But the complexity of human biology resists such simplicity. The body is not a machine with a few adjustable parts. It is a living system, responsive to the totality of our experience. The search for a single magic bullet distracts from what actually works. It encourages us to look past the fundamentals in pursuit of something more exciting, more novel, more promising. But the promise is usually empty. What remains, what endures, is the patient accumulation of good habits, consistently applied over a long life. A calm perspective on aging. There is a tendency in discussions of longevity to focus on extension, adding years to life, pushing back the boundaries of human lifespan. This focus can be motivating for some, but it can also create anxiety. If the goal is always more, always further, then the present moment becomes merely a means to a future end. An alternative perspective is available. It focuses not on adding years to life, but on adding life to years, on maintaining the capacity to engage with the world, to pursue what matters, to experience joy and connection and meaning, for as long as life lasts. This is a gentler goal, but in some ways a more ambitious one. It requires not just surviving, but thriving, not just accumulating time, but using it well. From this perspective, the practices that support healthy aging are not obligations to be endured for some future payoff. They are expressions of self-respect, ways of honoring the life one has been given. A walk is not just exercise, it is an opportunity to notice the world, to feel the body in motion, to be present. A good night's sleep is not just recovery, it is a gift to tomorrow's self. Time with loved ones is not just social connection, it is the substance of a life worth living. This is the deeper architecture of a long life. It is built not on fear of decline, but on appreciation for what is possible. It is maintained not through grim determination, but through gentle, consistent attention to what matters. It recognizes that aging is not a problem to be solved, but a process to be experienced, and that the quality of that experience depends largely on the choices we make, day by day, year by year. The research is clear about what supports healthy aging. The challenge is not knowing what to do, but doing it consistently, over time. This is where the art of living meets the science of health. It is where knowledge becomes wisdom, and where the architecture of a long life is finally constructed, not all at once, but one day at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of attention at a time. There is no final destination in this process, no point at which we can declare ourselves finished and rest on our accomplishments. There is only the ongoing work of living well, of attending to the fundamentals, of showing up for our own lives. This work is not always easy, but it is always meaningful. And in the end, meaning may be the most important factor of all. If there is a single idea to carry forward from this conversation, it is this: the factors that determine how we age are not mysterious or inaccessible. They are the fundamentals: sleep, movement, connection, purpose, nutrition, environment, each modest in its individual effect, but together forming the foundation upon which a long and vital life is built. There is no magic in this, no secret that has been hidden from us. There is only the patient, consistent attention to what matters, day after day, year after year. And perhaps that is the deeper wisdom, not that we can control everything, but that we can influence enough to make the journey worthwhile. We would be honored to hear what resonates with you from this exploration. What have you observed in your own life about the factors that support vitality? What questions remain? The comments below offer a space for reflection and shared wisdom, and we read each one with care. If this conversation has been valuable, you will find more like it in the Longevity Library, a collection of teachings on living well, for as long as you live. Consider subscribing so that new wisdom finds its way to you. This is the Longevity Library. Listen, learn, and live longer.